And then the following season, you went on to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was a tight defensive game for a while, and then Pittsburgh finally took over as well. It seemed like the Viking teams weren't able to get the ground game going the way they wanted to against the Steelers and the
I
Raiders later on in Miami.
I think with our team, for some reason, some odd reason, when we got to the Super Bowl, they changed up our offense and go away from the things that we did to get us there. And it was very uncomfortable for the most part. I'm not saying that other teams didn't play well, but you know, I think we would have stayed with what we did to get there. I mean, we were here. We can't do this because Joe Green's in the middle, and we're gonna do this. We had some crazy offense we called the jam in there. Whereas I would have went one way, Marinero would have went one way, but Joe Green just said, "No, I'm gonna stop all that." He just stopped everything right up and down. So that didn't work, and then you tried to get back into the things you were really good at, and it was you know another sad, difficult loss. But I always thought that we were a much better team than Pittsburgh Steelers.
How hard was it? I mean, you lose the first one to Miami, then you go back the next year, so there wasn't that lag, the Super Bowl lag. When you lost the second time, did it start to get in your head a little bit that we can't win the big one, Chuck?
I don't know if it got into our head. There was certainly a lot of question marks about what could we do. And I know I in that off season I worked that much harder to try to get better at everything I could do. I know that much. So it really did give me some incentive to be a better player. But and then the best team we had lost on a fluke play against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, that was our best team.
Yeah, I've heard Fran Tarkington talk about that. And that was my next thing. And we're talking with a great Chuck Foreman, running back with the Minnesota Vikings, led the league in touchdowns in 1974 and 1976. My first memory of a football game that I could remember where it affected me emotionally. I remember that Dallas game, that playoff game, and you guys were ahead, and that Hail Mary. It was a little warm for Minnesota at the time, so the weather didn't affect the Cowboys as much. But I would assume you guys thought you guys had this thing in the bag there with Dallas, right?
Oh, I certainly thought we were going to win the game. No question. I mean, you never have a 100% feel until it's over. But that particular play and the way it happened, and it was just right out in the open where the guy pushed Nate down, and they didn't make the call. It was more shock than anything that the call wasn't made, and we lost that game. Our best team that we had when I was up here, and we lost to Dallas on a play like that. That was really heartbreaking.
What was it like in the locker room after losing a game like that at home, and the fans left there stunned, and
Well,
a nation stunned because football was really emerging in the television market
we
by then. So the whole nation watched that game.
Well, then that's when Dallas became so-called America's team after that game. You remember that. And, it was difficult again you know, to stomach, but it was what it was. And, we had to go back, regroup, and come back the next year. And we got back again. And, it's just, this
N-
things work out. I think a lot of times, I know for us anyway, we'd get out of town and um, I thought everybody else, we were locked up pretty much, and everybody else was out, enjoying the cities and doing the things like they would normally do. And we were locked away from family and everything else. So it was a little different the way we handled the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, in 75, going back to that team, probably the best team. Fran Tarkenton said it's the best team. Now, his father passed away after that game. Is that correct? That happened to Fran
so
after watching that game?
certainly did. And yeah, there's a lot of memories in that game that weren't good, and that was one of them. And losing the game, well, no, that wasn't as bad as Fran losing his dad on that day, but it was a sad day.
Somehow 2 Super Bowl losses and then losing a heartbreaker to Dallas. A lot of teams would have crumbled, and that would have been it. Going into '76, what was how did Bud Grant motivate everybody to give it? And probably the last shot and the last time the Vikings were in a Super Bowl. What was it like
Well,
going to training camp that year with Minnesota under
you
Bud
know,
Grant?
well, again, we had a lot of incentive because we knew that team was really great, and we had everybody coming back. And we worked hard again to get back to the Super Bowl, and we got back to the Super Bowl. And again, same thing.
You guys had the block early on with against the Raiders there, and you had the ball at the 2 yard line, and you couldn't punch it in. I talked to Sammy White actually the other day. Do you think if you would have scored, got some points there on that drive there, things might have been different, or did Oakland? You thought Oakland was maybe just too good?
Well, okay, let me explain it to you this way.
Okay.
Strong right, 22 lead. That meant I was blocking. That meant Chuck Foreman was blocking on the 1 yard line with 1 yard to go. I could have just jumped over. So when you were doing too much thinking or trying to outthink somebody instead of doing what you did best, another mistake. So when that play was called, I was like, I just was lost for words. So
With it
that's